It started with the smell: damp wool, stale coffee, and the sour tang of old sweat. I was rushing past him like I did every damn morning on my way to the 8:15 express to Midtown. Him, the guy who always sat hunched on the same cracked step outside the bodega on 42nd and 8th, wrapped in 3 layers of mismatched coats, eyes fixed on nothing, a paper cup trembling in his hand. I'd never spoken to him, never even made eye contact. In New York, you learn that fast. Looking away is survival. Connection is risk. Empathy is a luxury you can't afford when you're drowning in rent, student loans, and the gnawing fear that your big break might never come. His name was Henry. I didn't know that then. To me, he was just the stepman. But that Tuesday, rain slashing sideways, my umbrella inside out, my third interview for a graphic design gig that paid barely above minimum wage, I tripped, not dramatically, just a stupid, clumsy stumble on the wet sidewalk right in front of him. My portfolio case, a battered leather thing I'd bought with graduation money I couldn't really spare, flew open. Sketches, resumes, mood boards scattered across the filthy pavement like wounded birds. I swore under my breath, scrambling on hands and knees, rain soaking through my cheap blazer. Humiliation burned hotter than the cold, and then he moved. The stepman. He unfolded himself with a groan that sounded like ancient hinges rusted shut, and without a word started gathering my papers. His hands, cracked, grimy, nails blackened, were surprisingly gentle. He stacked the sketches neatly, smoothed a crumpled resume against his knee, and handed the pile back to me. His eyes met mine for the first time, not vacant, but sharp, weary, and startlingly blue. "Rough day, kid," he rasped. His voice was rough but clear, no slur, no tremor. Not what I expected. "Yeah," I mumbled, taking the damp portfolio. "You could say that." He gave a slow nod, then reached into the inner pocket of his thickest coat, a threadbare army jacket. I braced myself for a plea, a sob story, maybe even aggression. Instead, he pulled out a crumpled lottery ticket, a New York State Lucky for Life ticket. He held it out to me. "Here, might be your lucky day yet." I stared. "What? No, I can't. Take it," he insisted, pressing it into my hand. His fingers brushed mine, cold but firm. "I got another. This one's yours. Consider it payment for brightening my morning." He offered a ghost of a smile, then settled back onto his step, pulling his coats tighter, retreating into his private fortress of cold and silence. Too stunned to argue, I stuffed the ticket into my own pocket, mumbled a thanks, and hurried off, the express train whistle screaming in the distance. I forgot about it instantly. Lottery tickets were for dreamers and suckers. I was neither. I was just tired. The interview was a disaster. The creative director, a guy with a man bun and a $2,000 watch, barely glanced at my portfolio. "Too derivative," he'd sniffed. "We need disruptors, not decorators." I walked out feeling like the pavement itself. Back on the subway, swaying in the stale air, I pulled out the ticket absently, ready to toss it into the nearest trash can. Then I saw it, the numbers. As 07, 14, 22, 33, 41, and the lucky ball 11. My blood turned to ice. I'd seen those numbers yesterday, on the news ticker at the bodega while buying my overpriced coffee. Last night's Lucky for Life jackpot winner, $1,000 a day for life, or a $2 million lump sum. Hands shaking, I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the NY Lottery website, verified the winning numbers, match, exact, fucking match. I sat there, on that grimy subway seat, rainwater dripping from my hair, the ticket clutched like a live wire in my trembling hand. $2 million a lump sum. After taxes, maybe $1.4 million, enough to wipe out my $78,000 in student debt. Enough for a down payment on a tiny Brooklyn apartment. Enough to breathe. Enough to finally stop feeling like a ghost in my own life. But it wasn't mine. It belonged to Henry, the stepman, the homeless guy on 42nd and 8th. The train lurched, throwing me against the window. My mind raced, a hurricane of conflicting thoughts. He gave it to me. He said, "Take it. It's a gift. He's homeless. He needs that money more than I do. He probably doesn't even know it's a winner." But what if he does know? What if it's a test, a trap? $1.4 million so I could finally live, really live, start my own design studio, help my mom with her medical bills. He handed it to me like it was nothing, like he didn't care. Maybe he wants me to have it, but it's his ticket. He bought it. He won it. Morally, legally, it's his. I got off at my stop in a daze, walked the 10 blocks to my walk-up in Bushwick like an automaton. Mr. Whiskers, no, my cat is actually named Pickles. Sorry, last story's cat bled through. Rubbed against my legs, purring. I ignored him. I sat at my tiny kitchen table, the ticket spread out under the harsh LED light, staring at those numbers like they might rearrange themselves into a different truth. I thought about Henry's eyes, that startling clarity, the deliberate way he'd handed it to me. Consider it payment for brightening my morning. He hadn't been begging. He'd been generous, Incredibly, bafflingly generous. But $2 million changes everything. It warps reality. It makes you question every kindness, every coincidence. Was it really a gift? Or just the desperate gamble of a man with nothing left to lose, hoping a stranger might share the windfall? Or maybe he didn't know. Maybe he bought it on a whim, forgot about it, and just handed me a worthless slip of paper? I had to know. The next morning, I skipped my usual rush. I bought 2 large coffees, black for me, and one with 2 sugars and cream, just a guess, and walked straight to 42nd and 8th. He was there, same step, same coats, same distant stare. My heart hammered against my ribs. I held out the coffee. Hey, brought you, coffee? He blinked, slowly turning his head. Recognition flickered in those blue eyes. Kid, didn't think I'd see you back. I checked the ticket, I blurted out, unable to hold it in. The one you gave me, it won. The jackpot. $2 million. His expression didn't change. Not a flicker of surprise, greed, or regret. Just a deep, weary sigh. Ah, so it did. You knew. The words came out strangled. You knew it was a winner when you gave it to me? He took the coffee I offered, his hands wrapping around the cup like it was a lifeline. He took a slow sip, steam fogging his glasses. I hadn't noticed he wore glasses before. Knew it might be, he corrected softly. Bought 5 tickets that morning, spent my last $20. Figured, why not? Either I win or I don't. Didn't check 'em all. Checked one later that night. The one I kept. Lost. So I figured the others were duds too. Gave you the only one left in my pocket. He shrugged, a small, almost imperceptible movement. Seemed like a sign. You looked like you needed it more than I did. The sheer, quiet magnitude of it hit me like a physical blow. He'd spent his last money on hope, lost on the one he'd checked, assumed the others were losers. Then, seeing me floundering, he'd given away what he thought was worthless. And it turned out to be a fortune. And he wasn't even angry, just resigned. I can't keep it, I said, the words tearing out of me. It's yours. I'll cash it, give you the money. All of it. Henry looked at me for a long moment, his gaze steady, penetrating. He saw the panic, the guilt, the desperate need for absolution in my eyes. He shook his head slowly. No, kid, you keep it. What? Why? You're homeless. This could change your life. It could, he agreed, his voice low and gravelly. But money, it don't fix everything, not for someone like me. He tapped his temple. Got ghosts in here. Loud ones. Lost my family, years back. Car accident, my fault. Never forgave myself. Drank the pain away till there was nothing left to drink but the gutter. He looked down at his warm boots. This money, it'd just be another weight. Another thing to lose, or worse, another thing to drown myself with. I've seen it happen, too many times on these streets. He looked back up, his blue eyes holding mine with an intensity that stole my breath. But you got your whole life ahead. You got fire in your eyes even when you're scared. You got talent in those sketches I saw. That money, it's not just cash for you. It's a chance to build something real, to not end up like me. He paused, a sad, knowing smile touching his lips. Besides, I already got what I needed. You looked me in the eye, kid. You brought me coffee. You called me Henry. Wait, you didn't, but you thought it, didn't you? You saw me, not just the coats, not just the cup. Me. That's worth more than any damn lottery ticket. Tears blurred my vision. This broken man, sitting on a cold step, was offering me not just $2 million, but a profound lesson in humanity I wasn't sure I deserved. But what about you? Where will you go? What will you do? He shrugged again, a gesture of deep acceptance. Same place I've been, one day at a time. Maybe I'll use some of that kindness you showed me to find a shelter that doesn't smell like despair? Or a soup kitchen with decent bread? He winked, a surprisingly boyish gesture. You find me when you're famous, kid. Design me a logo for my new venture, Henry's Hopeful Hot Dogs. I laughed, a wet, choked sound. I reached into my pocket, not for the ticket, but for my wallet. I pulled out all the cash I had, $87. Please, I insisted, pressing it into his hand over the coffee cup, for decent bread, and maybe for checking the other tickets. He looked at the money, then at me. A single tear traced a clean line through the grime on his cheek. He didn't refuse it. He tucked it carefully into his inner pocket, the one where the ticket had been. Thank you, Alex, he said softly. He knew my name, from my resume, from the portfolio. It didn't matter. He knew me. I didn't cash the ticket that day, or the next. I went back to 42nd and 8th every single day for a week, brought coffee, brought sandwiches from the deli, sat on the step beside him in the cold, talking about nothing and everything, his life before the accident, he'd been a high school history teacher, my dreams for my design career, the absurdity of New York City squirrels. He told me about his daughter, Sarah, who loved astronomy. The pain in his voice when he said her name was a physical thing. On the 8th day, he wasn't there. A wave of cold panic hit me. Had he... I asked the bodega owner, a gruff man named Sal. Sal shrugged. Came in yesterday, bought a bus ticket. Said he was going south to see if he could find peace, maybe. Left this for you. He handed me a small folded piece of paper. It was the stub of his bus ticket. Underneath, in neat, careful handwriting, he'd written, "Use the luck, kid, build something beautiful." H. I stood there on the empty step, the paper clutched in my hand, the city roaring around me. The $2 million ticket was in my pocket, a silent promise. Henry was gone, chasing ghosts or grace, I didn't know, but he'd left me something far more valuable than money, a mirror. He'd shown me what I could become if I let fear and cynicism win, and he'd shown me the power of a single act of unexpected decency. I cashed the ticket the next day, took the lump sum, paid off my student loans, set up a dedicated savings for my mum's healthcare. And with the rest, I didn't buy a fancy apartment. I rented a slightly less terrible studio, and I started my own freelance design business from my kitchen table. Hopeful Designs. It's been 2 years now. Hopeful Designs is hopeful. I've got steady clients, enough to live on, enough to sleep at night. I send a portion of every payment to a local homeless outreach program in Henry's name. I still walk past 42nd and 8th sometimes. The step is empty, but I always pause. I imagine Henry somewhere, maybe under a warmer sun, maybe finally quieting his ghosts. People ask me about the ticket, how I got lucky. I never tell the full story, not because I'm ashamed, but because it feels too sacred, too personal. But I'm telling you now because I need you to understand. Luck isn't just about winning. It's about what you do with it. I found a $2 million lottery ticket in a homeless man's pocket, and the most shocking thing I did next wasn't keeping it, or even giving it back. It was realizing that the real jackpot wasn't the money. It was the choice he gave me, the chance to prove I wasn't just another ghost rushing past on the sidewalk, that I could still see the human behind the hardship, that I could choose kindness, even when a fortune whispered otherwise. Henry gave me $2 million, but he gave me my soul back too, and that's a prize no lottery can ever offer.